Right, back live tonight on In Focus. Now, South Africans will be casting their crucial votes at the polls in just over a week. Newzroom Afrika's election coverage will be bringing you some special programming. This, a 5-part series called Where To Next, Road to the Presidency, in which senior reporters travel across the country to find out what issues are affecting South Africans. Today's episode, Malungelo Booi kicks off in the Eastern Cape, where he finds a community isolated yet determined to vote, while Ziyanda looks at how criminals are exploiting the country's borders in KwaZulu-Natal. Watch.
As I stand here overlooking this village, the story of its isolation is etched in every corner. In 2022, the plight of villagers here captured national attention, sparking public outcry. Journalists like me have tirelessly told the story of this community, tirelessly. But the question is anyone listening? The reality is that what is happening in this village is a poignant reminder of the inequalities that still exist within our country.
They risk the current also sweeping them away if they are not able to swim fast enough and they are not strong enough.
This is how the world got to know about Digidigi in a village in Dabangulu, one of the most impoverished areas in contemporary South Africa. On arrival in the area, it's quiet. It wasn't long before villagers began to approach us, some under the assumption that we were government officials with crucial news, a clear sign of just how desperate they are. Daliwe Msolongiwe was born here in 1964. He is quite vocal about their plight, which he insists has slowly stripped them of their dignity. To Msolongiwe, the lack of development in the village represents a profound betrayal by the democratic government.
Utata wafika wathi ilizwe uzolenza ngcono kuthiwa ngutata uRholihlahla Mandela. Kuphinde kwazophatha utata kuthiwa ngutata uMbeki. Wazosithembisa naye utata uMbeki. Waphuma utata uMbeki wazongena omnye utata. Waphinda notata naye kwangathi ngoku ngulo tata usiphetheyo ngoku kuthiwa nguRamaphosa. Kuyo yonke loo nto bantu bam singathi sisahlele elizweni esazalelwa kulo naba sihlele ebukhobokeni sizimbacu unakanti apha eMzantsi thina andikhumbula uba singazimbacu thina apha sizalelwa apha akukho nenye into pha nibheke nje abantu abandithetha ubuxoki nantoni asinazitoilet apha asinamanzi apha asinazindlu apha.
Despite assurances of a bridge by 2022, hope has dwindled among Msolongiwe and fellow villagers. To them, the promised bridge was part of a political ploy to divert attention from more pressing needs like electricity in their homes.
Ungaqikeleli nokungayigcini kakuhle into uba ngaba kwakuthiwe le bridge siyiqale nini nje uba ngoku kuthiwa ngoku koba ngokugcwele zonke izinto apha sakhupha yonke into apha sakhupha nendawo zokubeka imashini akukho nto zangasiyenza apha still sisabhekile nangoku amehlo ajikile abovu inhliziyo zethu zisitshone phantsi silahlile ithemba andifuna uthetha ubuxoki mina silahlile ithemba kusekho nto sobe siyifumane kulo mhlaba sikuwo.
Yet even in despair, Msolongiwe remains steadfast in his commitment to cast his vote on May 29, a cherished right.
Seni-ready ke ngokuba nihambe niyovota kuloo ndawo nivota kuyo? Kuba kuthiwa ninyuka ngentaba niyovota kwelinye icala.
Ewe, mandizutsho mna nje sasizukuyovota. Ngoba ziyathaza lapha. Akho sipha sizoya khona. Sizosovota ngosibona uba kusemnyameni. Asiboni naba sihamba siyaphi. Sizosovota. Urhulumente wethu we-ANC siyamthanda.
And the implications of the isolation of this village from the rest of the world and lack of development are already being felt by the younger generation.
Abafunda abantwana bade bagqiba bethu abantwana ngoba lo isikolo asikho. Akukho nto ikhona, not that isikolo sodwa, akukho nto ikhona. Sizinyamazana nje kule ndawo sihleli kuyo.
Xa nifuna uya esibhedlela?
Xa sifuna uya esibhedlela abantu bethu basithwala ngebhede. Basiweza apha emlanjeni kuba sekwabakho uphuhliso kweli cala lentaba le Flagstaff. Basiweza apha sithathwe imoto ubheka esibhedlela.
In the heart of the struggle, Nompiki Savutani's harrowing journey captures the hidden torment etched in the villagers' souls.
Ndisahlele ecinazelekini mna ndikafumani kwaMandela waphuma etilongweni mna ndisathi uMandela usesetilongweni ngoba ube besephumile etilongweni ngenje.
These stories weaves a tapestry of anguish in a province where rural life is marked by neglect. For Vuyisani Situnzi, the bridge symbolizes more than just physical connection.
Sawulala sityile mengakhona ibranch kwakho ibranch abethe izowakhiwa pha kume kuthulekile luvoto ikomba nalo uvoto lufikile bethembisile uba ngovoto izoba seyitheni ibranch izoba sezikhona into esezikhona asiboni kwani.
The weight of unkept pledges bears heavy in the villagers, mirroring a haunting past where promises hold as much weight as air.
Kahle kahle besicela isimangalo ukufaka isimangalo kukhona amagqwethe efikile lapha ethe uzesimangale kuwo siyawacela uba makaphinda abuye sifake ntoni isimangalo ezantoni esoba ayiqhubeleke ibranch hey ubumba lapha bunzima. Ukuqala apha impilo endikhulele kuyo ndithwele umuntu oswelekileyo ndina 15 yona nje impilo enzima ebefanele uba nabasemathafeni basikhawulezela ngebranch sinyuke ezintaba sinyukana ezintaba nabantu abaswelekileyo.
In 2023, government announced that 23 million rands had been set aside to build a bridge for the Digidini villagers, with calls for a bid in December the same year. Officials from Dabangulu municipality confirmed the appointment of a contractor has been finalized and that the contractor would be handed to the community anytime from now. With millions allocated and promises lingering like ghosts, hope teeters on the precipice of doubt. The appointed contractor holds key to unlocking the community's dreams. One of the most striking things about being in Digidini is that there's not a single political party election campaign poster. And that is actually quite telling. And it sort of like gives credence to what local residents have been saying, that politicians are just too afraid to face them because of the challenges or the underdevelopment that that community faces. My colleague Ziyanda Ngcobo is in KwaZulu-Natal, where she's exploring issues pertaining to cross-border.
In the small town of Manguzi, nestled on the border between KwaZulu-Natal and Mozambique, a dark reality grips the hearts of residents. Crime syndicates have been operating in the shadows, exploiting this porous border to smuggle stolen cars, contraband, weapons, and drugs with impunity. The community and law enforcement agencies are working tirelessly to dismantle these criminal networks, but the challenges are immense. The vast expanse of the border, coupled with sophisticated tactics employed by syndicates, makes this an uphill battle.
The President of the Republic of South Africa, Umnumzana Cyril Ramaphosa, ehlala nomnyuso ngale uPresident waseMozambique. Yabona indaba untshontsha kwemoto akekho omunye umuntu ozoyilungisa ngaphandle kwabantu ababili. Noma ungalethi uMinista noma ungalethi ubani sesibambe emhlanje sikhathele. Sifuna izinto ezintathu. 1 ukuthi uhulumeni wakithi akakhulume nohulumeni waseMozambique kubuye izimoto ziningi ziseBella Vista ziseMatola zile kaKhathwane.
The new Border Management Authority, which was assented by President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2020 and initially housed under the Department of Home Affairs, formally launched in October last year.
Border Management Authority is responsible to facilitate and manage the legitimate movement of people in and out of South Africa. But of course, in doing that, we have to also deal with issues of cross-border crime and any other kind of illegal activities that can actually take place in a border environment.
We visited the east and western sides of the borderline between Kosi Bay and Mozambique, where the challenges were laid bare. The first one we learned was almost immediate for the Newzroom Afrika team. The sandy route to get past the border means even sometimes the thieves have to steal 2 cars, making sure that there's at least a 4x4 to get the ordered vehicle across.
One of the biggest challenges, especially when you refer to Mangozi, is the issue of the smuggling, of stolen vehicles out of South Africa, particularly into Mozambique.
The eastern side of the border reveals gaping holes deliberately created by the criminal syndicates operating in the region. These breaches serve as channels for the trafficking of counterfeit goods and human beings. The depth of these trenches directly correlates to the likelihood of illicit activities occurring within the area.
The smuggling of persons themselves, wherein you will find that people are, let's say, on the Mozambican side, they actually get smuggled into South Africa. So that on its own is one of the biggest challenges that we deal with.
Part of the modus operandi used by these syndicates that are smuggling both human beings and counterfeit goods is to have spotters in the bush to actually communicate between South Africa and Mozambique about the whereabouts of border management officials. I'm told as we speak, there could very well be spotters monitoring this very moment. Officials say the residents living closest to the border are part of the challenge, as they sometimes provide a safe haven or temporary shelter for the criminals and the counterfeit goods they bring in and out of the country, making the profile of these criminals quite complex. What do we know about the profile of these criminals? Do we know where they're from, what their modus operandi is?
I think they're regional players. I don't think, the criminals are either Mozambican or South African. I think it's both. They're well organized and they've got the resources, they've got strong resources into both Mozambique and South Africa, which facilitates their ability to continue to increase their bad behavior.
Sometimes even children are used by the syndicates and are identified by authorities by burner phones with exorbitantly high amounts of airtime used to communicate the movements of BMA officials and areas that are clear for entry.
Buya ekhaya. Ubuyibeke nini inkomo ekuseni? Oh, usuwayibheka kwasemini.
Ubani amagama akhe?
Oh. Unayo airtime efonini?
Ngishiyile semkhadi yakho.
Uhamba ngefoni enganayo sim card?
Ngithanda udlala sound nje.
Another added complication is that while the borderline is classified as a national key point, the land we drove on falls under the Ingonyama Trust, making the possible solution of relocating problematic residents who are aiding and abetting thieves almost impossible. The remnants of these spotters are strewn all over the bush. The community now lives in fear as Newzroom Afrika made several attempts to reach out to victims of these hijackings, which have now increasingly become violent. Since the brutal assassination of Judah Mthethwa in February 2023, who was gunned down in a hail of around 30 bullets, many are apprehensive about appearing on TV. Mthethwa, who was the leader of the Umhlabuyalingana Society Against Crime, is said to have been murdered shortly after appearing on television and allegedly pointing out where the criminals have been hiding out. At least 2 ringleaders of the car hijacking syndicates have since been arrested and linked to Mthethwa's killing, while another 2 are said to remain at large. The illegal movement of goods has become so advanced that there's even a rank which transports goods and people from the South African borderline into the country.
So basically, they have highlights to transport these goods and smuggle human beings. And it's 4x4s. So it's evident this is big money. And they're even using children.
The establishment of the Border Management Authority, the good part of it is it also enabled us to create what we call the National Targeting Center. So the National Targeting Center is where all the country's intelligence structures sit. So we do have state security, we do have crime intelligence, we do have defense intelligence. So these structures actually guide us on the work that we do operationally in as far as intelligence is concerned.
As the sun sets over Mangozi, casting long shadows over the border that separates nations, the battle against crime syndicates rages on. With the establishment of the Border Management Authority and the unwavering dedication of community members and law enforcement agencies, hope remains alive in this challenging fight.